Hi, welcome everyone to our chat today with Layla Asadi from Bicycle Network. We're going to be chatting about, well, a few things about riding to school and things, but in particular about their Open Streets pilot that was held in Brunswick down here in Melbourne, which is a really interesting pilot that a lot of you showed interest in when we talked about the media articles that were published about it. There was a lot of interest. So we thought we'd get Layla in to have a chat to us about how and where and why it came about, and potentially get some tips on how parents can help encourage their schools to do the same. So to start us off, Layla, would you mind introducing yourself, Bicycle Network? What's your role there, and what is Bicycle Network?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alice, and thanks for having me today. So my name's Layla, and I am the General Manager of Behaviour Change at Bicycle Network. The work we do is basically to encourage people to get on a bike and to make riding easier for everybody to do so. So we do a lot of different project work. We do a lot of campaigning, a lot of public affairs and advocacy work. We are an advocacy organisation, and we have a membership base of nearly 50,000 strong that support us and encourage us to do this work for the better for all of us. My role, particularly in the behaviour change space, is around finding out what makes people tick, really, what makes people do what they do, and how do we help encourage them to do something different and take a different mode. So in my space is obviously encouraging people to ride a bike more often in their lives. And yeah, I run a couple of projects under that, including the Ride to Work and the Ride to School programs.
Excellent. I'm sure a lot of our long-time listeners, long-time viewers, lots of our long-time members will be aware of Ride to School Day and the work that Bicycle Network does do and have seen the influence firsthand, the difference that just having a kind of focal point and talking about cycling and riding a bike helps parents make that shift too. So let's dive right into it. Tell us about Open Streets Pilot. Like what was kind of, give us a bit of an overview of the project. What were you trying to achieve with it?
Yeah, so, excuse me. So Open Streets is a pilot. We've just run it at Brunswick East Primary School in conjunction and partnership with Moreland Council, City Council. And the idea behind it is really to, well, within, I suppose, take a step back, within our Ride to School program, we build initiatives that counteract the barriers that we see in people getting to school actively. And so one of the biggest barriers around that is obviously safety, and that's a lot of people's parents' concerns particularly. And so we try to tackle this in a variety of ways. And I guess one of the things that we wanted to look at was particularly around the safety around the school zone itself and what we can do in that space and around the congestion. So we know that congestion is a massive issue. We know that safety itself, not just people driving to school, but specifically around the school zone of people doing maybe illegal things, things that are just not that safe in terms of that space. So we wanted to look at what solution we could come up with to do that. And yeah, the pilot basically was run across 3 separate Fridays in a row, and we built it so that it was concurrently happening in a sequential manner, so that people could get used to that. Oh yeah, every Friday we do this now, and so we set it out to be a pilot that took the school zone, so therefore the residents include, the community as well included in that, to take part in this. In terms of opening that street that was right in front of the school, which is Stewart Street, which joins onto Nicholson Street. Now, Nicholson Street is a very busy street, so there's a lot of, fear around people not being able to get there and the access, but we're opening it up to people walking, riding, scooting and skating, and making cars divert their journeys from that specific area.
Excellent. I don't, bit of personal information about me. I grew up in East Brunswick. I wasn't a Brunswick East student. we were kind of their nemesis school at Brunswick South, you know, those weird rivalries established.
Yeah.
And there's part of me, I don't live in Brunswick anymore, part of me is a bit jealous that Brunswick East has been the one that's kicked this off. I know that we spoke about this before about, you know, but have you tried this before? Is there a particular reason why you, like, I can hazard some guesses, but is there some particular reasons why you picked Brunswick East and even just that kind of council area?
Yeah, so we have tried on a number of occasions for many years, actually. And one thing that, you know, is really important in the work that we do in behaviour change is that we fail. We need to learn to fail and fail fast and move on and learn from those mistakes. And we failed a numerous amount of times trying to get this kind of pilot up and running, where we were diverting vehicles and opening the street to people for active modes. And we just never quite hit the nail on the head for various reasons. And one of the reasons was we were going in what we would call it, you know, too hard category. We were going to areas and schools and zones and areas that were just that bit too tricky, too many barriers. And so we went with Brunswick East because the council were on board. They're a real key integral part of this. And like I say, it was a partnership and they part funded it. And it made sense because of the location of the street and how many other streets might have been affected by that.
Yep.
And you know, it was low-hanging fruit for us. So a lot of people might say, well, why would you do Brunswick? Everybody knows, everybody rides a bike in Brunswick and it's kind of the thing to do. Well, because you've got to start somewhere. And like I say, we've tried many a times and failed. And I think it's because we were trying too hard in a too hard area, or too hard kind of setup. And so we went with something that we knew would be easier to get in and get a yes from the people living locally, as well as the council and the school, who go, yeah, we get that, and yeah, let's give this a go. So you have to have an easy win in to start with a pilot, and that was the reason for choosing that. And Moreland Council have been fantastic in terms of getting on board. They're a progressive council, and they really understood it, and kind of pushed it forward with us.
Excellent. I can and I think actually when I was thinking about this pilot, I was only thinking like in terms of the stakeholders or the partners that are part of it, as part of, you know, the school and the council and you, and I kind of forgot about the residents as being, because I feel like it would be easy to put them in, like they're just in the barrier section, instead of kind of saying, well, we'll do it with them and bring them on the journey with you. Did you put work into that, bringing the local residents with you, or did the council work with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was key for us to do that. So it's a three, you know, the triangle for us is school, the council, and the residents, the community, because this is a community initiative, I suppose. It does involve every school, more or less, unless you're on a big massive hill out of the way, is on a street. The streets don't belong to anybody, they are for all of us, and I think we sometimes forget that. Some people forget that. And but building that, you know, awareness around the community and not forgetting that they are part of that it was key. And I suppose from a logistics perspective, because we were you know, diverting the vehicles away, that included people who lived there. And so some of the streets that connected to Stewart Street, you know, some people might have needed to get their vehicle out, and so we were able to give them a pass or a permit in case they needed to do that, and we could safely let them out during the times that we were doing this. And I guess it's probably worth saying that we were doing this for morning drop off and then afternoon pickup. It wasn't all day Friday. It was just at those key times, because that's the time that we see the congestion, we see the issue, and they're the key moments. So for us, it was really important to do that. And I guess for us to go a bit further on that, you know, I suppose councils are always aware that that's their biggest area to look after. They represent the people that live there. And so they had a keen interest as well as us. But we were absolutely aware at Bicycle Network and the Ride to School team that we can't do this without the kind of buy-in, I suppose. And so we did make sure we consulted and had moments where we spoke with them and asked them, surveyed them, and found out what people thought.
And so are there any kind of anecdotal results you can share, or even just share how you felt? I assume you were down there on the Friday,
yeah,
seeing the kids, and like, what was that experience like?
Oh, honestly, Alice, it was so good. So essentially, you know, what I'd said to the team was, we want this to be like these days when they happen, these moments, we want this to be like the utopia. What would a utopia look like? If you dropped your kids off at school, what should that look like? What should that feel like? And what should that look like when you turn up towards the school gates? It shouldn't be the congested mess of unsafe environment that we have currently at nearly all of our schools. So what does that utopia look like? And so to set that space up, we made sure that we had games and that we had just enough space. We had a little ramp for the kids to do like jumps off. But what we noticed was that, and you know, the kids love it. And again, this isn't the issue of people riding to school. When you talk about what are the problems and the barriers to people riding to school, it's not the kids. They all want to do it and they all want to get active. We know that there's other concerns and there's other issues and things going on in people's mornings to get people to school. But the kids were really keen to do that. But they started to, you know, like bunny hop off the curb as well and do things in amongst the space that you wouldn't have predicted. But being able to give them that space to do that was great. Another thing was, what we learned was you don't want to overcrowd it. You know, an open street, the point of an open street is that you keep it as kind of free from things as possible. Let them play. You know, kids are good, they use their imagination and play. So we had a lot of chalk, and we said, you know, we put the chalk down, we did a few stencils ourselves, and then just said, hey, if anyone wants to. And I guess that was really nice, because I think what we often forget in this space as well, when we're talking about why it's important for people to have opportunity to actively travel to school, is that parents don't just go alone. They have other siblings as well. You know, they have the other children with them, that are siblings of those kids going to school. So they might have little ones and toddlers who are with them. And to see a toddler, I saw, you know, there's this little toddler who was just in their onesie, sitting on the road chalking at like 10 to 9 in the morning. We would never, ever, ever see that. But how beautiful and amazing is it that we've given that space to the people to be able to do that? And the mum was going, oh, are they okay to be here? I was like, yeah, you've got till whatever time it was before that particular section had to change. And it was really amazing to see that, and to see residents as well come out and ask us what it's about and so on, and kind of see that, because for them, you know, you are taking away an issue for the residents, you know. And like I say, not just the fact that they're key because they live there, but because they're probably sick of people clogging up their road with cars every single day. And so for them to wake up to children playing in an open space that was free of vehicles, completely free of vehicles, was beautiful as well. It was really nice. So I think, and obviously on the afternoons, I suppose, we saw more free play and a bit more of an ease, because, you know, it's the end of the day and it's not as much hurry going on to get to school. And even things like what I overheard one parent say to their child, or a child they were looking after, you know, are you coming with us? We're all going to leave now. There was a little group of them, gaggle of them. And this girl turned around, she's on roller boots, and she went, no, I think I'm just going to stay here for a while. Because she could take that space and she could just spend a few more moments and her afternoon roller skating around. And like, it's just magical. It's so nice to see. Yeah, it's great.
I feel like I should have popped down to check it out myself while it was happening, because I'm getting these like nostalgic flashbacks to like standing on the street kicking a footy, and like friends riding their bikes, and how much easier it is to learn on that big flat surface than on footpaths where you got fences and whatever, you know, like that reclaiming of streets for kids and for that sort of for life and play. It just
because, you know, what we've done is, I think someone's done you know, the study's been done, but that idea that back in the day, you know, we talk about the stats, you know, 8 out of 10 children used to ride or walk to school. Now it's 2 out of 10. It's flipped, it's reversed, and that's what we're trying to work to fix, essentially. But, you know, we also had this thing of where children were allowed to go out. You used to go to the next town on a bus with your friends, or wherever you go. You were allowed to go further. You were allowed to go a fair distance. And as the years have gone on, and now we've got to 2021, we don't let our kids out of our front gate without supervision. it's not, you don't even let them on near the road or the curb to kick the ball because it's just too unsafe.
Yeah.
And how sad is that we've got to a stage where, never mind going to the next town with your friends at you're 10 years old, you can't even go out of your own garden, and if you're lucky, if you've got a garden. So, you know, and that pressure on parents and families to have to constantly be there to watch children as if we've not, you know, everyone's not got enough stuff to do with their days, I think is really sad. And so yeah, it's a massive element and a massive important part of this. It wasn't just something that we thought as a solution to getting more people active, which of course it did take, lowering congestion, bettering air quality, and there's lots of benefits within there, but one of them was that it's a happy, safe, wonderful environment that's exciting for kids to be in and feel good to just play, like you say, kick about.
So amazing.
Yeah,
like to get you guys up to my kids' school now, which kind of neatly segues into my next question is, what can parents and schools do if they were inspired either by our conversation today or by the media reports about the Open Streets pilot?
So they can get in touch with us at Ride to School. We would love to hear from anyone. So like I say, this is a pilot, we'd love for it to happen again. And so yeah, get in touch. We can send the details after this, but it's Ride to School with the number 2, Ride to School, at bicyclenetwork.com.au. You can get in touch with us. You can find us on any platform we're on, Facebook, any social platform, or our website. We have all our contact details on there, and yeah, just shoot us a message through. What was really nice for me to see on, say, Twitter was loads of people going, yeah, how can I want my school to get involved. I want my school to have one of these. And I was like, great, let me know. What's your school? Like, tell me. So, you know, I'm building a list. I've got a spreadsheet of schools and councils that I want to work with and start building this. Because yeah, I think it's important that we really do this properly and that we make sure we're giving space for everyone to get involved if they want. So yeah, in terms of parents and schools, if they want to get involved, speak to Bicycle Network, get in touch with the Ride to School team.
And for people watching, make sure you're subscribed to our email list, because the next e-newsletter will have obviously the link to the recording here, but we'll put the contact details for Ride to School in there from your website as well, and direct people to the website. So if they're inspired, they've got a direct link there. You've got a direct link there to get the details. And if you've got any questions, ask them in, this is me, Facebook comments. I'm not leaving a comment myself. I've already got my questions. But yeah, so ask us in the comments now. I've got one last question myself for Layla, and then we'll go to any questions that parents watching have. So the big one, like, what's next? So are you going to look at piloting it again? Are you going to try, introducing some more barriers now you know it works, or are you going to go for some more, I'm not going to say easy, because I don't think anything like this is easy, even if you've got all of those kind of stakeholder triangle bits supportive. So what's next?
Yeah, so what's next is that we do want to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it as often as we can. It was a success. So, you know, like with any pilot, from a behaviour change perspective, you're waiting to see the results. We are still collating some of the results, so I shouldn't probably jump the gun too much, but I do think that the initial responses that we have had a good, and that people want to see more of this. Like I say, that was from the school environment, that particular school, as well as external people going, hey, we want to happen. So there's appetite for it, basically. There is appetite for it. It worked. I should also say as well that this was based on what they call school streets in the UK. So there's an organisation called Sustrans, a kind of similar model to what we do in the advocacy space, that ran and do run a set of these school streets, and that it was basically the same model. So we picked it off them and said, we spoke to them and said, well, how does that work, and what do you do, and so on, and we based it off that. I changed the title to be Open Streets, just to have a bit more. This is the first of its kind in Australia, so it was really important for me to kind of make this something key to Australia. But also the title in itself doesn't mean anything, but it just does mean that we can use it in other environments other than schools as well. But I suppose what is next is collating people's feedback. We're going to finish, get our evidence base first, which is obviously key from a behaviour change perspective. What worked, what didn't, what did the results tell us? And we're going to learn from that. We're going to put some thoughts into another one. We have another school to work with Moreland. We haven't got the school yet, but we're working with them to look at that. Because we initially
live in Moreland, Layla. I live in Moreland.
Well, there you go. We'll talk later. There was 2 schools that we initially said we'd do, so we started with Brunswick East, and we're going to take it from there, and we're going to hopefully open this up to councils that want to work with us. Councils are obviously the integral part to this, because we can't do it without them. This isn't just a thing we want to do directly with schools, which is a lot of the work that we do in the Right to School team. We work directly with schools to get the kids active, but this has to be combined, obviously, for the road closures and the other parts of it, the other elements of it too, and the permits and so on. From
a council perspective, that congestion you were talking about, that's an urban planning difficulty that councils have. If you can prove a project like this works, then this becomes an urban planning solution to some of those problems, doesn't it?
Exactly. So really, it could be a really key part of lots of planning going forward and lots of solutions going forward. So yes, so the result is the next steps is to just keep doing it and to do as many as we can, as far away as we can. And like you were saying about the easy thing, like you say, it's right. It's not necessarily another easy one, because everything will have its challenges. For me, the challenge is not necessarily the school. You have to have buy-in from the school. They want to say they want to do it. You have to have the council want to have buy-in. You've really got to get the residents and the people on side that live on that street or those streets to buy into this and feel it's something they can want to trial. And if something happens that makes that not connect, that's when you're going to have a few issues. And so for me, it's not like choosing a harder school. It might be another low-hanging fruit, so to speak, or another progressive council, really progressive council that are keen to push this through. But really, it's about making sure that everybody around that area, as the community and the residents, understand and go, yeah, okay, we'll give this a go. We get it. This is really important. And for me, I guess, because one of the things for me is that I looked at Brunswick East Primary, and the lollipop lady, the crossing person, is stood outside of the school gates. That's where they have to stand for this school. And that makes me just go, how have we got to? I was having a conversation with my boss, Craig, here about this, and he mentioned, we were talking about that, and he mentioned, where have we got to in the world where the unsafe area could be outside of the school gate, that the lollipop person isn't further down the road or another crossing, that there's immediate danger potentially outside of the school gate, like as soon as they come out of class. Like, that's like, when you take a moment to think about that, it's pretty serious, and it's pretty sad, and we need to do something about that. So for us, we just need to keep pushing that message that we have to get our school environments better. And we see the backlash of it all the time. Parents saying, there are schools that are talking about multi-story car parks in previous years. It's like, whoa, there are other solutions to this.
Well, and just putting the kids at the center of your solutions, right? Kids don't want multi-story car parks.
It has to be person-centered. Yeah, exactly. So
we've got a lovely comment from Tana from South Australia, who's asked, obviously this one's here in Victoria, and that we've been talking in a bit of a Victorian-centric way today. So do you have any advice for parents in other states? My understanding is Bicycle Network, do you operate Australia-wide at the moment?
I mean, we do. We're a national organisation. We have officers and people on the ground in Melbourne and Tassie. So they're the 2 states that are funding currently that we will be looking at to work in, because that's the easiest thing for us to start with, obviously. But yeah, again, we work with everyone. And National Right to School Day is about everyone everywhere. And so we encourage you to still get in touch with us. We can still support you and have a chat. And then we would probably work and suggest partners in your state who we can work with. There's bike organisations that are the same as us in every state, and it may be that they have connections already. A lot of them run their own similar style programs with their communities, and then we could do it with, we can connect in that way with them.
Excellent, great. And I'll get our behind the scenes person, Evie, was sending me through any questions. I just had one other comment while we're waiting on that, was that when I looked at, obviously the pilot was happening, one of the pilot days was National Ride to School Day. And one of the things that I loved from watching it is, I mean, obviously the kids playing and laughing and whatever, but the amount of politicians who took videos on the day there and posted them, and you posted them of them as well. And I just thought it's such an indicator of where we've got to in this conversation around riding and schools and just kind of that sort of transport thing in general, that there were so many politicians willing to stick their hand up and say, I support this, and I think this is great.
Absolutely. You know, it is hard to get a politician to come to one of these things. We're always trying, and we, as a program at Ride to School, we're funded through the state government in Victoria, and it's still really hard to get people to show up to things. And you know, you've got to, you know, they're very busy. They've got a lot on. But something like this, there's something so unique about this, and there's something so different and refreshing in the way it's going about tackling the barriers that we see around this, and kind of going, actually, okay then, so you can't take your car all the way to school gate today. You are going to be able to walk, ride, scooter, or skate. And again, you know, this part, we always talk about pathway is okay. And so the options there are on the table for people who might have other issues or need to drive, you know, longer distances. We're not saying this is a solution for everyone, obviously, as well. I should say that. But yeah, for a politician to be able to pick that up and go, we love this. This makes sense to us. We feel safe with it. It's a safe bet for us. We get it, and we're happy to talk about it. It was great. Yeah, like you say, on the day itself, we obviously made that our flagship school for Melbourne, Metro Melbourne, and yeah, to see them all getting on their socials and going, look at this. I mean, it was chaos. And they, you know, the kids are everywhere, and we had a smoothie bike and coffee carts and all sorts. And like I said, that's not what On Open Streets is really about. That it's kind of the opposite. But of course, we have the fanfare because it's the big day and we want to celebrate everyone. But yeah, like you say, I think there's something really, it just shows how unique this is, and how important this is, and how much of a potential good win it is.
Yeah.
That can be implemented. You know, there's not too many barriers to making this happen. Once we've got this formula right, for somebody to take this on, it's a package deal that we can pass that on to and help make it happen in anywhere, because you know, the situation is the same in a lot of areas.
And I think that was the thing that really inspired me when hearing about the project, is to me, it's a different solution to the problem we've been looking at for a long time. So instead of just saying more people need to be riding or walking, we're actually saying, well, how do we make the space more conducive to that? And it wasn't just about permanent infrastructure. It's this, you know, the idea if you could have temporary treatments in a sense like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, long-term aim, there's different long-term aims potentially depending on what the school and the council would want. You know, you could end up with a bollard that goes up and down at certain times of the day, or you could just do a series of these, you know, or you could just have some signage that says where you're allowed to go between the certain hours. And so for us, that was really key. And another thing for us that was really key, Vic Health have done a lot of work around this that we've been part of in terms of language, and I know yourself has as well. And you know, language is key when we're talking about this stuff. We are talking about opening the streets to people. We're not closing, you know, people talk about road closures and closures of streets. We're not talking about that. We are talking about opening this space for lots of different people. We're just diverting one method for those moments. And I think that when we switch that language and we say a road is open to people, you get a very different vibe and you get a very different response to it. So that was it's really key that we talk about that, and we talk about the benefits. So when we set the flyers through to residents about what was happening, I talked very specifically about how this benefits them, not how it will affect you. You know, like it's really key that you get that right, and so you can show them the positives of it.
Excellent. That feels like a really nice way to bring us all together for the end. Thank you, Layla, so much for joining us today. There was so much interest in this topic, and you know, such a different project from what we're used to in this space. For those watching, we'll make sure we send the details out via our email list of the recording. if you're hearing this, you're already watching the recording, but and the details on how you can get in touch with Layla and her team at Bicycle Network to talk about this project. And if you're really inspired and you want to work with them on that, or even just things like Ride to School Day and getting more people more kids in your neighborhood riding. So thank you so much again, Layla, and we'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Alice. Lovely to speak to you.
Yes, lovely.